they're going to fall by the wayside to some extent. But this deck is super, super busted.
To me, I believe that this deck would be good if someone spent some time on it to figure it out, because all the cards are there. The artifact lands are legal. Mox Opal is legal, and Mox Opal is busted. And just no one has played it yet. So Syed Ahmed is certainly doing a nice job so far, sitting at 5-0. You see his hand, 2 copies of Great Furnace, a Seed of the Synod. He's also got a Springleaf Drum. There's a Vault Scourge, there's an Ornithopter, and there is an Edge Champion. Of those cards, the best of the bunch is certainly Edge Champion.
It's one of the powerful payoffs that this deck has. The big one is Arcbound Ravager. It's surprising to me. I understand you want to be as artifact dense as possible. Disciple of Vault not being around is still just surprises me.
Illegal. Completely legal.
Yep.
It's really weird to me that Disciple of Vault was like, if someone played that during the Block Instructor, even when Affinity was Standard League, you're just like, oh my god, I can't win. And you know, now none of the Affinity decks play it. It's so strange to me.
The decks I play were generally robust to Disciple. I lost to other stuff.
Okay.
But I know what you're saying.
Jordan just with a Tundra before passing the turn back, representing Daze and Spell Pierce and Brainstorm and all of those fun things that Blue Red Delver can do.
Arcbound Ravager, on the other hand, I lost to that bad boy a ton.
That card was too good. That's why. It's actually still too good. Springleaf Drum's going to get countered very quickly by Dan.
Not a lot of things to do with a Spell Pierce in this matchup, and especially if you let Springleaf Drum resolve, then there's nothing to do. So, looks a little weird, but got to counter something.
There's the Mighty Ornithopter. It's ready to do nothing right away. This is a Brainstorm.
I feel like if you're going to play Legacy Affinity, you got to spring for the Antiquities Ornithopters. That's just got to be. They're not that expensive. They look awesome. You just got to go get it.
Now, see, that looks awesome.
That does not look awesome. It looks way too big. The proportion of it's a 0/2 flyer. It should be kind of this little fidgety thing. That looks like a very there you go.
Yep.
Look at that.
There it is.
A classic.
With a real story to tell. As a Blue Delta is going to come down here from Dan. That thing is disgusting. It is so ugly. Vault of Whispers, a welding jar.
Dan may be having flashbacks to some of his more competitive days.
Oh. And now a Vault Scourge. Welding jar is actually a card I like in Modern Affinity quite a bit as a 1 or 2 of. Because a lot of the time when you're playing Affinity, you're just trying to protect your best card. Be it Steel Overseer, be it Ravager, be it a Nexus, what have you. And Welding Jar does a nice job of that.
And also, the deck's all about efficiency on mana exchanges, too. And when you have a Welding Jar and it's trading with things like Abrupt Decay, especially because your deck is so efficient to begin with, those are the kind of exchanges that bury your opponent. Welding Jar is not good in every matchup, and in Legacy, it's even tougher because the most common removal spell you're going to play against is Source of Plowshares. But every time it trades with a spell that costs mana, it's a huge win.
Jordan picks up a card after making it a perfect Brainstorm by sacrificing a Polluted Delta. He's underneath any immediate pressure right now, just a Vault Scourge out there. I think it's very important for Dan that he doesn't let a card like Edge Champion resolve, because it basically plays the role of True Name Nemesis for this deck. There's a Tundra. You see if Dan does have actually a card like True Nemesis of his own. He does have 2 in his main deck, of course. Pretty stock stuff here for Blue Red Delver.
But True Name Nemesis is not going to be enough to get it done in this matchup unless it's supplemented by equipment.
Yep, which oftentimes it is.
Even Vault Scourge is a pretty significant piece in racing here. Legacy is a format where you feel like you always want to root for the underdog, even if the underdog itself engenders some bad memories.
Yeah, like Affinity does.
Yeah. It's been out of our radar in Legacy turns for so long that now it's charming again.
Yeah, you're actually not wrong about that. It was a, it used to be an absolute nightmare. Here's a Mem Knight back in 2004. By the way, it's 2014. But now it's not so bad.
No. Especially when it has draws like this.
Yeah, pretty honest, all things considered. Here's a Ponder from Dan.
The draws where the deck could not beat a draft deck, it's hard to be too upset about.
Yeah.
I have an Ornithopter, a 1/1 flyer, a 1/1 for 0 mana, some things to protect my 1/1 flyer.
Yep. And the opponent has played a Hill Giant, and the opponent has taken the lead.
Yep.
Ponder will resolve. Dan's going to keep that. Here's another Ponder. Get a little deeper here. Consult the grip. See the spell piercer. There's also a daze over there, force of will too.
Force of Will is really valuable to have here when, say, it is light on payoff cards.
Yeah, force of will is actually pretty good against Affinity because they do have some payoff cards that are very good. Of course, Arcbound Ravager, Cranial Plating. There is of course the Master of Ethereum and Etched Champion. Here's a Delver of Secrets. So being able to stop their one payoff card is very, very important. Ahmed didn't draw a card for the turn. There is a Seat of the Synod. So what he's trying to do right now, to the best of his ability, is just play around a card like Daze. Here are the attackers.
The troops.
Yeah. The idiot brigade, as it were. And you have to imagine this will be the champ. And the champ is here if it resolves.
This feels good enough to fight over to me.
I actually think that Dan can probably win the race if he lets that resolve. Potentially. I mean, if he draws equipment, what have you. He knows the top card of his deck, so you have to imagine Delver's going to flip. There's a real opportunity for him to maybe win the race here, depending on things. And, if that's his only counterspell, we could see a card like Cranial Plating run away with the game now.
Sure.
So it's risky.
Another Ornithopter. Nice.
There's a Delta. So Delver does not flip. A little surprising. Here comes True Name. There's Delver has no good attacks.
And now it's a race to see who can find their first game breaker first.
It seems like a race to equipment now.
Yeah.
Either Dan finds a Jite or a Stoneforge Mystic, or Syed finds a Cranial Plating.
Arcbound Ravager also qualifies in this spot.
Oh, yeah. Attack here for 2. Jordan's going to go down to 10. So he's going to gain a little bit of life. Kind of doing some of the work that True Nemesis is doing. Jordan down to 9 now via Polluted Delta.
This has been a pretty low power game so far, though.
Yeah, all things considered.
To put it charitably.
Nothing here has really impressed me. Makes you forget that we're watching Legacy here for a moment. See what Jordan's able to put together on this next turn.
But yeah, both players kind of doing nothing. So Dan drawing to Stoneforge, and was always Jite.
There's a probe. That'll flip the old Delver. 3/2 flyer in the house. Pro will go to the grip. Yeah, he's going to hardcast this one. Let me see what you got. Didn't get a great look at it. Dan did. We didn't. Must not be too relevant.
I mean, he didn't cast it, so.
Yep, that's true.
Probably a.
Seat of the Synod is the answer. Dan has to decide how he wants to attack now, of course. Could get aggressive. I mean, the race is certainly interesting here.
Yeah, oddly enough, it's thrown off a little bit by the fact that Syed has multiple Ornithopters to chump block with.
Yeah.
And a Welding Jar to save an Ornithopter that chump blocks.
Oh boy, that is nice. That is just really good. Sometimes Affinity looks completely busted. Other times it looks embarrassing.
Yeah, the most powerful thing he tried to do this game was play a Grey Ogre.
Your two-headed giant tournament has started. Tien Lin and Benjamin Hatch. Your two-headed giant tournament.
Come on, Ravager. Something with some juice here.
There's the seat. I don't think there was any juice, my friend. Just an attacker 2 yet again. Jordan going to go down to 7. So you're going to gain a little bit of life. Aha!
Oh, the race has sped up.
Pump up the jam. Pump it up.
It's gone from 2 to 6.
That's actually pretty good.
No, Signal Pest is a real card here.
Yeah.
Welding Jar to protect it. Got some action now.
Here's a Ponder. This is always the worst feeling in the world when you're out of cards and your opponent draws a card and they're like, oh, Ponder. Or Brainstorm. I'll find something to do.
That's why a lot of Legacy decks play 8 of them.
Ah, right. Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. They are relatively good Magic cards. Jordan looking at a Force of Will. Another blue card, looks like a Tundra as well. Doesn't look like the best ponder in the world. That third card had better be a good one if he wants to keep it.
Now, Dan can effectively hold back on defense for a little bit.
He can slow down.
He's got a bolt that can break up combat a little bit. He has an insectile aberration that can block the signal pest. His True Name Nemesis can block the Mem Knight.
It sure can. Show that thing who the boss is.
Oh, yeah.
Dan is going to... I think he's pretty unsure. Yeah, he's going to keep it.
Looks like more reactive cards.
Yeah, kept the Force of Will.
I do not think Dan can attack.
I think he's got to slow down a bit now.
If he attacks with the True Name Nemesis, he just takes too much damage on the way back, I suspect. And if he attacks with the Insectile Aberration, then it's free season for Signal Pest to do its thing. But Dan has to be careful here because, you know, Syed has a number of very powerful cards to draw from this spot.
Well, it's one way.
Okay.
And Ornithopter has seen enough, I believe.
Yep.
I like this block. And you take 6, you could die double bolt, so don't want to let that happen.
It's also, you know, what else is going on with these Ornithopters, if you don't mind me asking?
I think somebody drew a spell here. Syed went reaching pretty quick. Now he's slowing down.
And it could be one of his spells that affect things before combat. Arcbound Ravager, Cranial Plating, one of the good ones.
Mm-hmm. So see what happens here. Looks like he is waiting pretty patiently. We might have maybe a bolt before attackers.
Oh,
yep.
I think maybe it was bolt before attackers. Maybe trying to bluff him into thinking that he has Vendilion Click.
Yeah, I mean, there's that. There's also, you know, attack step. All right, before that happens, I'd like to bolt your Signal Pest so that that trigger does, the battle cry trigger doesn't happen. Everybody in the club.
This is a big attack.
This Vault Scourge is actually causing quite a bit of trouble here.
Yeah, surprise. This has been a really good game for Vault Scourge.
Yeah, annoying old Vault Scourge. Of course, this attack here would be for 2, 4, 5 points of damage if Syed does attack with everybody. Of course, Battle Cry will make all the creatures a little bit bigger, make Ornithopter relevant. You see Syed is pretty unsure about what he wants to do with the old O2.
One of the toughest Ornithopter attacks we've seen.
Yeah. There's a bolt on the Vault Scourge. Slow your roll, Lifelinker. Now the question is, does he want to use the Welding Jar?
It seems like a good spot. The Vault Scourge is just his best card in play. Maybe Signal Pest is better, but it's worth saving.
Mm-hmm. So, 2 damage is going to come across. And now, ha-ha! Another Vault Scourge.
Whoa. I mean, Dan can barely beat the first one.
Dan is, oh boy. So Dan's like looking at a Force of Will, and that might actually be a thing that, yep, this might actually happen. Oh, baby. Vault Scourge has been Force of Willed.
And that's, not only is that kind of embarrassing on the face of it, but the 1 point of damage matters a lot here too.
Mm-hmm. Brainstorm very quickly from Jordan. Looking at Stoneforge Mystic, a land, a Delver.
Now, Stoneforge is a big shifter if Dan can turtle up for 1 turn here.
Mm-hmm.
Hold back, survive the turn, and then get Jite on something.
Yep, there's the Delver. I think it might be time to turtle up for a turn.
Yeah, now with the Stoneforge Mystic, just play defense.
There's Stoneforge. Can go search for a Jite. Could be a Batterskull too, but I think Jite is probably better right now.
I think you have to get Jite here. Because it's online next turn.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan might not get 2 turns.
Yep.
He's looking at 1. So yeah, if I'm Dan, I'm not attacking with anything. Just hold back. He still dies to, even though there's 4 attackers to 4 blockers, he is still dead to Arcbound Ravager because he doesn't have enough blockers into air to stop Signal Pest and Vault Scourge and Ornithopter.
What I find kind of humorous about this game is that Dan's draw has been relatively good, I would say, with removal spells and brainstorms and ponders and all that good stuff. Syed's draw has been a motley crew of buffoons.
Yeah.
And he is putting up one heck of a fight. Imagine if he draws his good cards.
Yeah. Multiple Ornithopters, a 1/1 for 0, 1/1 flyer for 2.
Springleaf Drum.
Yep. Dan didn't even let him have the drum.
Yeah. Syed has not drawn Ravager. He hasn't drawn Massive Ethereum. He hasn't drawn Plating. He hasn't drawn his heavy hitters. True Name's feeling frisky again. Dan trying to figure out how much damage can I get through so I can try to kill you maybe on the next turn.
So the question is, what does attacking here open himself up to that doesn't kill him anyway? We've confirmed Ravager is lethal regardless, so that isn't not really a consideration here.
Yeah, because he has two flyers in quotes. Signal Pest only blocked by flyers, then Vault Scourge, and he has an Ornithopter too. He actually has 2 flyers and then Signal Pest. So I actually like the attack here with True Nemesis. Say he's going to go down to 6. Big draw. How about a real spell?
It's a good time for Arcbound Ravager.
You know, when they slide the creatures over, they're going to add one to the table, I think.
Uh-oh.
This could be Massive Ethereum. Oh, that's Champion.
That's okay for Dan.
Yeah, that one's okay for Dan, actually.
It doesn't kill Dan.
Mm-hmm.
And now Dan gets to move into the next turn with an edge.
See if we're any attacks. Yes, we are. Syed wants to keep pushing through some points of damage. This is risky. He could die in the counterattack. Yeah.
Yeah, he's at 6.
Now, he could go up to 8 from Vault Scourge plus the Signal Pest Battle Cry trigger, but 8 might not be good enough. He needs to be a little careful here about how he attacks.
Keep in mind that there's another Delver that can flip here too, so. I'm not sure there's a lot to be gained by attacking in this spot, because if you lose stuff, you may hit a point here where Arcbound Ravager plus Edge Champion isn't enough to get it through. I think there's not a lot to be gained by the attack here, and Syed's probably better served just saying go, getting hit by the Jitte, blocking the Delvers as appropriate, and leaving himself with maximum resources to maybe seal the game with Edge Champion plus Arcbound Ravager the next turn.
I also don't like the sequencing here is not the best. Playing Edge Champion pre-combat as opposed to post-combat, because now, you know, if you're Dan, okay, I know my opponent has nothing in hand, so there's not a lot to think about. I can make my blocks with perfect information and move forward. You know, eat your creatures, take a little bit of damage, let you gain a little bit of life. Now I've got a Jitte that's going to come into play here very quickly, you have to imagine. So there that is. Time to equip up. Now, that being said, oddly enough, Ahmed actually does have a big draw to get the game done. He can draw Cranial Play next turn and kill him.
Oh, sure. I mean, even if he goes Jitte, hit and either gain life or shoot down the 2 one-touches creatures, he's still, you know, Arcbound Ravager and Cranial Plating are still kills.
Yeah.
One spot left in the next Legacy winner box.
So through all of this, there's a Tarn, and Syed is dead next turn. He can win the game right now, depending on what he draws. That's a Mox Opal.
That's not it.
No.
And now Dan can breathe a sigh of relief.
Yep. He was on 8 outs to win the game that turn.
Yeah, he can survive and crack back and kill.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan shaking his head there. Game was probably a little closer than he would have anticipated, given that Syed found basically none of his good cards.
Yeah. I think the next game will probably be different, but Dan Jordan is up a game here over Syed Ahmed. Blue-Red Delver up a game over Finney as we do turn our attention to the sideboards here. Syed does have 4 copies of Tezzeret, Agent of Bolas on the board, along with 3 Grab Trigger's Cage, 3 Whip Flare, 2 copies of Karakas, 2 Thoughtseize, and an Envelop. I actually like Whip Flare a lot here.
Whip Flare is excellent against Dan's deck. Now, of course, Trinity survives it, but does break up Delver and Stoneforge Mystic. And Dan's deck doesn't have a lot of action cards. There's going to be a lot of draws he has where he has one proactive creature and then a lot of setup and cantripping and so forth. So breaking that up is really powerful.
And Syed thinks he needs more action cards. He could bring in these Tezzerets as well. He didn't draw any of his action cards there. May have just been a little bit unlucky. He doesn't have Thoughtcast in his deck to kind of smooth things out either. But, he does have 4 Ravagers. He's got 4 Platings. He has 4 Edge Champions, that seem like action cards here, and then 2 copies of Master of Ethereum. But he might need a little more action to present, more real threats.
I'm interested, is Tezzeret in the board for a particular matchup? Or is Tezzeret at the board because post-board, I'm going to be playing against a lot more removal, the game's going to be slower, and this is a powerful card.
Yeah.
It's possible he just wants to be as linear as possible game 1 to maximize his deck's efficiency and power, but post-board against more resistance, he wants to have something that allows him to go longer.
What do we see on the other side?
2 Fluster Storm, 2 Grim Lavamancer, a Wear Tear, a Swords of Plowshares, Sword of Feast of Famine, Pyro Blast, Red Blast, 2 Rest in Peace, and 4 Meddling Mages. I like a couple cards here. I really like Swords of Plowshares, I really like Wear Tear, and 2 copies of Grim Lavamancer. Grim Lavamancer is very, very powerful against Affinity, and there really isn't even any creature removal in this particular Affinity build, so Lavamancer just gets to run wild if Dan has it.
Yeah, sometimes we see decks that have Gal Blast, that's Galvanic Blast, of course, Shrapnel Blast, Dismember, what have you. No removal here, though, in Syed's deck, so as you mentioned.
Syed is bringing in the Whip Flares, we assume, so we'll have some protection against Grim Lavamancer, but game 1 at least, he's really exposed to that card.
Let's talk Worm Token, shall we?
Worm tokens.
You ever heard of a Worm Token?
I have.
Going fishing? Fishing Worm Tokens? No?
Using the human as bait.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's a paradigm shifting. Here it is. You place it on the website from now until October 3rd.
That's a long time.
It's a long time. You get 2 copies of these Worm Tokens here. Very good for your advents or other needs. And of course, all the other ancillary worm-related products we put out here. Playmats and deck boxes and dice bags and sleeves and so forth. All this available at StarCityGames.com.
Using the human as bait, huh? And then wearing the man's hat.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a mean worm or a friendly worm.
I didn't get it at first. Someone on Twitter pointed this out to me, but it is now funny now that someone has told the joke to me, which I believe I should have been able to figure out in the first place. So that's on me.
It's certainly not on me.
Yeah.
So congratulations to you.
We're not here to assign blame.
Ah, yes, this again.
But
this again.
It is your fault.
Yeah.
Entirely.
You can get these until October 3rd on StarCityGames.com. We'll have this match here between Dan Jordan and Syed Ahmed continue in just a moment. We do want to thank all of our viewers today, over 7,000 holding strong, enjoying some Magic. So thanks for coming and hanging out with us as we are watching our Legacy Open. Our last one here before M15 rolls in. Also last one before this sweet schedule change too. So
yeah,
pretty sweet stuff here.
I know that there's a lot of parties looking forward to that, including, but not limited to, the staff, players, judges, and us.
Yeah.
And a lot of the convention halls, too.
Yeah. Please leave.
Please
Fine.
We're past midnight, so you got to get out.
That's cool.
It's like, well, we're still doing our thing over here. It's like, oh, you still got to get out.
We have a champion to crown, Mr. Convention Center Man.
Yeah.
And we're not going anywhere until that's done. I'm looking forward to not only the schedule change, obviously, because it'll make things easier for everybody, but I like to walk around in between rounds and just, talk to people and watch Magic when I can. And now that I get to watch people playing Modern, which is one of my favorite formats, it's just going to make the tournament experience in the weekends already better than they're already great, but it's just going to be better now.
It still hasn't gotten its claws into me yet. I know it's a matter of time.
Yeah. I love Modern. Just a bunch of combos, Birthing Pod just running wild, Tron decks are sweet. Plus, there's just a lot of room for innovation.
That's not what you said in the room on Friday.
Look, Tron is still sweet.
While I was playing in some Vintage Masters draft, Cedric was trying his hand in some queues on Magic Online in Modern playing Tron, and I'm doing my thing, I'm flashing back deep analysis, what I'm doing in the Modern queues, the Vintage Masters queues. Periodically, I just hear Cedric going, yeah, I lose the game. Yep, Stony Silence, I'm blocked, or whatever was happening in the game in question. Had a rough night from what I could gather.
Well, I didn't win too many matches. By too many, I mean I didn't win one. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't make the deck any less sweet. It's just that particular night I was losing.
Wasn't going well. That's okay, though.
You can't win them all.
To quote the great Ben Rubin, win some, lose most.
Yes. Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah.
It's very true. Hall of Famer Ben Rubin,
Oh, yeah.
mind you. And he's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
Things didn't break my way Friday evening. That's okay. There's always Saturday evening.
Yeah, that's true.
Looks like both players are happy with their 7 cards. Syed will begin with a Vault of Whispers into the mighty Springleaf Drum.
Good start, I think.
There's Volcanic Island before passing the turn back over to Ahmed. Inkmoth Nexus, and now a Signal Pest. And now a second Signal Pest.
How am I doing?
Now, oddly enough, if you take a look at Syed's mana base, he has 4 Vault of Whispers, 4 Seat of the Side Nods, 4 Great Furnace, a Glimmer Void, and then 4 copies of Inkmoth Nexus. So Blink Moths. He has Ink Moths, but no Blink Moths.
Yeah. Well, he may be just trying to combo kill with it, essentially.
Yeah. Here's a Daze to take care of that Signal Pest. I actually like that play a lot by Dan. He bolts the Signal Pest, daring Syed to use the Springleaf Drum, which he didn't do, and he dazes the other Signal Pest. For Dan, what he's just trying to do is just kill all the stuff. Just get the stuff off the table.
He needs to keep raw card count low.
Yeah.
This is a matchup where Dan can easily win with Jitte. So all he needs to do is trade resource for resource.
Here's the champ
The champ is here.
with the ability to pay through days. So that's in there. This is the honest true name Nemesis.
Not only is it honest, but some work required.
Yeah. Here's Jite. And here's an Ornithopter.
Bang.
Inkmoth Nexus is feeling frisky. In we come. Got both sides covered. 2 regular, 1 infect. Dan J gonna play a Brainstorm.
Just looking for a creature. And then he really gets this turned on.
Well, you can see the Delver in his hand, so. I know our directors didn't think they'd have to use the infect this match. How wrong they were.
How wrong they were. We
Yeah.
only really had to dust it off when Tom Ross is on camera.
It's really true.
Usually.
Yeah. Mostly the boss, nobody else. Brainstorm does resolve. Here's a Tundra. And there's your Delver. You got to imagine that's going to be flipping and holding a weapon soon. Syed will draw a card. Looks like he doesn't have very many left. 3 mana. There's another copy of Edge Champion. Inkmoth Nexus coming at you from both sides yet again. 2 regular, 1 infect. Jordan going to flip this Delver. Swords of Plowshare is pretty good. 3-2 now.
If memory serves, the activated power of Umezawa's Jitte is held by the Jitte, not the equipped creature. So Edge Champion is not safe from this.
Not long from this world. Memory does serve correct. Jordan going to play a Stoneforge Mystic. I'll add this Batter Skull to my hand. That's conveniently on top of my deck. And shuffle things up.
Good sequencing.
You know, Dan hasn't played as much Magic recently. You can tell he still got it.
Still got it.
Yeah. It's like riding a bike. Seed can untap here. He's got a couple of creatures out there, Edge Champions. Draws another Seed of the Side Nod. He has just not drawn his best cards.
All these games, for as bad as Syed's draws has looked and how he really hasn't done anything, at any point in these games, if Arcbound Ravager appears, it's over.
Yeah. That and plating would have... Plating or Ravager at any point over the last game or this one, we're looking at games that are very hard for Dan to win.
Now, plating is a different from this spot because the Jitte contains a lot of what's going on there, but Arcbound Ravager is still good with Syed getting hit by this Jitte flyer.
Jordan going to take 4 points of damage here. Going to quickly untap, take a draw. Starts it off with a Brainstorm, it looks like. Yes, sir. Looks like old Inky wanted to stay back on defense this turn. Jordan going to figure out how he wants to move things around. Does have another copy of Delver Secrets in hand. Puts 2 cards back. We'll see if he has a fetch line to make it a perfect Brainstorm. It looks like he does with the Scalding Tarn.
And I don't think Dan's going to really kill anything. Try to see these GT counters to either win the game as quickly as possible or break up anything Syed tries to do with a cranial pitting off the top or some such.
So there is the Delver. Here comes the attack for 3. See if there'll be any use of the GT here at the pumps. By the way, the Betrayers of Kamigawa equipment is starting to really take things over this game. Card came out many moons ago, but it's still one of the very best.
Come on, Syed, just draw a real card. I want there to be some fireworks here.
That's how I feel too.
We don't get Affinity on camera very often. Win or lose the match, don't really care, but you know.
Do your thing.
Do your thing.
You're 5-0 for a reason. I have to imagine you've done your thing 5 times. Deck might be a little camera shy. Bang. Thing done. Vault Scourge. Pass the turn back. Here comes Batterskull. You know, one could argue it's easy to do your thing when you have Ponder and Brainstorm in your deck.
Yeah, sure. There's extenuating circumstances that have led to this.
One could say, here's a daze to flip things. Now Dan will sacrifice the Scalding Tarn. No interest in drawing the daze at this point. So a mystery card coming.
Syed's done a very good job of maintaining his composure here, all things considered, given how anemic his draws have been.
It's got to be frustrating. It really does. Dan trying to figure out if he can maybe win this turn. The Delver did flip, of course, so it's 3-6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, he's just looking to push through some damage here. Remove this.
Yeah, clear out all the blockers here.
Yep. A little assistance from the GT. There goes the Vault Scourge. In comes everybody. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11. You activate that Nexus. That'll bite the dust. 12, 13, 14, 15.
Yep. Dan sees it.
And I think Syed's about to see it in just a second. If I activate this Inkmoth Nexus, does this do anything for me? He will certainly try. Activate that. Remove a counter. That bites the dust. Pump, pump. An extension of the hand. Dan Jordan's going to win this match over Syed Ahmed. 2-0. Blue Red Delver take down Affinity when Affinity just did not really do its thing.
Yep. Not a lot of mana, a lot of 0-2s and 1-1s and other 1-1s. None of the payoffs. Not much to be done there.
Yeah, and you know that's part of the thing that can happen with Affinity. You have to imagine Syed had more explosive draws over the first 5 rounds of the tournament. They just did not show up here.
I certainly hope so, because I can't imagine him being 5-0 drawing like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.